And now back to Bobby Likis Car Clinic and your host, Bobby Likis.
And welcome back to Bobby Likis Car Clinic. Great program today. Call with your car questions at 888 Car Clinic. With us on the hotline now is Lorrie Walker, car seat expert for Safe Kids Worldwide. And folks, throughout the world, almost 1 million children die of an injury each year, and almost every one of these tragedies is preventable. Safe Kids works with an extensive network of more than 400 coalitions in the U.S. and with partners in more than 30 countries to reduce traffic injuries, drownings, falls, burns, poisonings, and more. Since 1988, Safe Kids has helped reduce the U.S. childhood death rate from unintentional injury by 60%. Working together, we can do much more for kids everywhere. So, Lorrie, welcome back to Bobby Likis Car Clinic. We're happy to have you and Safe Kids Worldwide on our Car Clinic Globalcast.
Well, thanks. It's a pleasure to be with you, and I hope we can help some families today figure out how they can make their kids safer in the car.
Well, let's get started. Fill in our Car Clinic listeners and viewers about the new child passenger and car safety research Safe Kids Worldwide conducted.
Yeah, we're looking at something, a wonderful little tool that's on every car seat and has a counterpart in the car that you hook the two together and you get a safer ride for your kids. It's called a top tether. It's a strap that's at the back of forward-facing car seats that can be used with a harness. So that would be kids usually between the ages of 2 and maybe up all the way to 6 or 7 years of age. So these are forward-facing kids, not newborns, but forward-facing kids. And this top tether is already on your car seat. There's already an attachment in the car to hook it into. And yet we found that about 60% of families didn't know that they needed to use this. And it does make their child much safer. So we want people to know about it. We want them to know where to look for it in their car, how to find it on their car seat, and that they will not only use it themselves, but tell babysitters and grandparents and spouses, anybody that's transporting their child, to use it when they transport that forward-facing child.
Makes a lot of sense, Lorrie. What are some other common mistakes that parents make with child car seats?
You know, I'm really glad you asked that, because some of these little mistakes are so easily fixed if you just focus on them for just a minute or two. And we find that oftentimes parents may select the wrong car seat for their child. So they perhaps are using a car seat that's a booster seat, maybe for an older child, but they're using it for a younger one. So we want them to pick the right car seat. We want them to put it in the right place in the car. So that's a back seat. Any child under 13 should be riding in a back seat of the car. We want them to have the child harnessed correctly. And one of the things we see often is a harness that's used and not threaded through the right slots coming through the back of the car seat, and it's definitely too loose. We do something called the pinch test, so that once that harness is buckled, you shouldn't be able to pinch the webbing at the child's shoulder. And then the last thing that they often do is forget to install it correctly. And that means putting the seatbelt or the lower attachments through it, tightening them, and then using the top tether for forward-facing kids, not necessary for rear-facing in most car seats, but adds so much protection for that older child. So those are the biggest mistakes that we see. We see them repeated all the time. And a car seat really shouldn't move more than 1 inch side to side or front to back when it's installed. So there's a little test that parents can do to be sure that they've done it right.
Wow, sounds like it really needs to be firmly secured to the seat. We're talking with Lorrie Walker, car seat expert for Safe Kids Worldwide. Lorrie, share with our Car Clinic listeners and viewers some of the dangers of not having your child properly secure in a car seat.
Yeah, you know, one of the biggest concerns that we have are the number of kids where you know, you're just going a short distance, you don't think it's a big deal, and you want to just maybe take a chance and not use a car seat. The one thing that I see and hear occasionally from parents after they've been in a crash and they weren't restraining their children was, you know, I should have done. And I want to make it so that no parent ever has to say that. No parent ever has to look at a child who's now paralyzed or another injury where they've lost a spleen or they've been seriously injured with a head trauma. And they have to live with that as parents for the rest of their lives if they'd only used a car seat. These seats are so well designed. They are crash tested. They are designed for kids all the way up to well over 100 pounds, different uses for kids at different stages. But, you know, the adult seatbelt is designed for that, an adult, somebody who's 5'10", around 160 pounds. And think about it as your winter coat. I mean, those of you maybe in Hawaii or Florida can't really get into this, but a lot of parents will understand a winter coat will keep your child warm, but your winter coat keeps you warm. It's fitted just for you. A child needs one that's adapted for him or her. And that's what the car seat does with the adult seat belt. It takes that adult belt and modifies it so that the child gets the most beneficial protection from a harness, from the shell, from all those features that hold that child securely in the vehicle. So that's one of the biggest things is using the seat, having it, not keeping it in the trunk, not keeping it in the garage, but using it every single time. And then, you know, you've done everything you can do to make sure that your child is well protected. But that's my biggest beef is lots of times we get a little bit careless with we're only going down the block or I'm a good driver. And what people don't realize is that, you know, I may be a great driver, but you're coming at me and maybe you're in some way impaired. That makes it tough for everybody.
Well,
so use the seat, use it well.
And Lorrie, it's really tough if after the fact, if something happens, and you said it earlier, I wish I had, or what have you. And so, folks, you want to make sure that you learn more about child car seats. And Lorrie, where can our car clinic parents and caregivers learn more about child car seats?
Boy, am I glad you asked that. We have a website at safekids.org. That's all one word, safekids, SAFEKIDS.org. And you can learn about all those injury mechanisms, such as drowning and falls and fires and all that, but especially about our motor vehicles. And then we have a separate website called the Ultimate Car Seat Guide, and that helps parents that are just getting started looking at, you know, how do I buy the right one? How do I fit the harness? And this is a lot of video in there, a lot of pictures to help people. And then how do I fix it so that I installed it right? And when should I move to the next seat? How should I make that decision when one seat is outgrown and my child's ready to progress? That Ultimate Car Seat Guide is available in both English and Spanish. And you can just go on there directly. You can put in your child's initials and their age and weight and get all the information specific to that age and weight, or you can just go in and do it as a general website where you just look at kids who are rear-facing, forward-facing, booster age, and then into the seatbelt. So if you go to safekids.org, you can just click over onto Ultimate Car Seat Guide, or you can go there directly at www.ultimatecarseatguide.org.
Okay, so both of those websites, folks, are .org, which is the organization, safekids.org, and then, of course, with Safe Kids, there's a link and a tab to Ultimate Car Seat Guide, or you can go to ultimatecarseatguide.org. So, Lorrie, just one final question, and what is your and the organization, the Safe Kids organization's opinion about handing down car seats? I have my own theory about that and my own ideas about that, but what have official studies shown in the past, or do you have any?
Yeah, I do, and I'm really glad you asked that. You know, in a short interview, it's hard to get everything that parents need to know in, so that's a great question, though. Hand-me-down seats are, they're okay if, and I say that with a big capital IF, if they've never been in a crash, if they are not expired and there's a date of expiration on every car seat, if you know the owner of that seat, so maybe it's your sister or your sister-in-law or your next-door neighbor, and they can tell you, this car seat has never been in a crash and I have all the parts to it. I can give you the instructions. I can validate that it has never, ever been in a crash. Once you can do that, then possibly. But let me just say this. Car seats in the U.S. are very inexpensive. You can get a car seat that meets the standard, the FMV SS 213, for as little as $70. And that's one that goes for, you can use it for 6, 7, 8 years, depending on the manufacturer. That's a pretty cheap investment per year to keep your child safe. But many times we hear from families who tell us, I can't afford a car seat, but they've got the newest cell phone, or they have a smartphone. And not to make a judgment on that, because a lot of people, do that for their work or whatever. But for the most part, the technology in these seats, even the inexpensive ones, change on a regular basis. They're upgraded to have side impact protection. There's flammability protection built into the seat pad itself. The harnesses sometimes are done with a quick adjust as opposed to having to take them out and rethread them. And so just like with cars, we have in the cars where we tell you to use these top tethers, we have on the back of every car seat the tether. And then in the car, we have 3 tether anchors. Now, I was just in a Chevy Traverse last week. It had 6 tether anchors. So anywhere you sat your child in the car, you could have access to a tether. So the upgraded protection that you get from some of the newer products is well worth it when you look at keeping your child safe in a crash, which is a very, very violent activity. A lot of energy generated there. We want the car to take the energy. We want the car seat to take the energy and deflect it away from the child.
Excellent. Lorrie Walker, car seat expert at Safe Kids Worldwide. Lorrie, I am on with you with regard to the small investment for the newer technology. In my opinion, no hand-me-downs. Buy the real deal. Get the latest and the greatest technology to match the automobiles that are being made today. Lorrie, car seat expert for Safe Kids. Again, those websites, folks, safekids.org. and a tab to ultimatecarseatguide.org, or you can go to ultimatecarseatguide.org. Lorrie, thank you so much for joining us on Car Clinic today. I really appreciate the input.
Well, thanks an awful lot, and I really appreciate the opportunity. You take care. Be safe.